Okay, so this is the Habaki tutorial, and I first wanted to start off just by kind of giving you an idea of what it is and why it's a part of the sword, and how do we start off, essentially. So here's one that I've already made. It goes with actually a wakizashi that I have made, and you can kind of get a feel of what it is. It's basically simply a collar for the blade, and you can kind of see how it has a little bit of an edge, has a notch in the back, but that's kind of what it looks like. And then it actually just fits over the blade like so, and you can see this actually goes over the edge, and this fits flush with the back. Now you can also see this has no spine to it. I didn't cut the spine on this particular sword, so that's something that's going to be a little unique to this, but that notch will still apply, as will the thickness of this. And you can also see how close of a fit that is. There's just a small gap all the way in. So this is why I also had you cut the notches earlier, because you can see it, that's where it stops. It gets hit on this notch and hits there. That notch actually goes inside the habaki, and that actually sits flush, like I said. So that's what it looks like, and its purpose, the reason why these actually exist, is actually the sides of the sword, and the edge especially, we're actually not supposed to touch the sheath at all. So the sheath is actually open on the inside, and what's to keep it from rattling inside the sheath a whole lot is the habaki. And it actually fits snug inside the koiguchi, which is a part of the sheath. So this is like the throat of it, and this actually just slides right in there. It's supposed to fit snug so it doesn't move around inside of there. That's actually where the spine comes in as well, because when you pull it out, the spine is supposed to rub along the bottom so that the sides and the top, the actual blade of the sword, do not touch the sheath. And that's to preserve the sharpness of the blade, and also to preserve the polish so that nothing gets inside and scratches or anything like that. So that's the purpose of it, and that's what it looks like. So how do we start it off? Well, to begin with, what you're going to need is you're going to need, again, your chisel. You're going to need your utility knife. Probably going to want your rasp, a little bit of sandpaper. I've got a couple of different, I've got a 220 and a 100 grit. I had to check them there. And obviously you're going to need your sword blade. And then you're also going to need your piece of wood that you're going to want. Now, for the habaki, you're going to want probably a piece about this long to start off with, and then you're just going to trim it out. I mean, the habaki is actually very small, but it consists of two parts. You're going to have one side and then the other side, and it's going to be split down the middle. So where the challenge comes in is mimicking the bevel that you're going to find that you created on your blade right along here. So basically you're making two pieces, carving out either side of them, and then putting them together and gluing them. And you can see I've already laid it out. I'm going to show you how to lay it out in a second. So you're going to need a piece big enough so you can hold on to while you carve it. And so a size about this big. Also, you're going to want a piece that has square sides, so that this is not a cut that you've made, unless it's a square cut. And the same on this side, just so you can kind of have the tops will match up easier, because the bottom you can just kind of file down to where it's level for you. But the tops are kind of important so that it lines up really nicely. So make sure that this is a square cut, and that this is a square cut that you're measuring off of. Also, it helps if you have the back square as well. And that, again, this is just the end of a piece of wood stock, the same thing that I use for the blade. This is the same exact piece of stock, just a piece of the end. So this side square, 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 and that'll just make your life a whole lot easier when you're trying to lay this out. Now, in order to lay it out, like I said, you're going to need your blade, and an idea of how tall you want your habaki. So what I like to do is I like to go with an inch. So you can see I've got an inch there, and then you just take that line and draw your 1 inch line all the way out. and that's going to be your top to bottom. Okay, then you're going to want to have an idea of how deep you want your notch, and that's this line. And for me, I believe I went with a 1/8 inch. Oh, I went with 3/16. Okay, and that goes all the way through. So just as a point of reference, here's your back, here's your front. Okay, so this is the front right here, like I said, and so here's the piece of the notch where that goes right inside the habaki. So you can kind of figure out that this is going to be the front edge of the habaki. So you've got a lot of space here, but this is where your notch is going to be cut out. So this whole space here all has to be carved out. Okay, just to kind of give an idea of what we're looking at. And so you're going to have this nice little shape here, nice little shape here. You're going to cut the outside after you've done a majority of the carving, just so you've got something to hold on to over here when you're using the chisel. You'll find that to be very helpful. And then also, like I said, remember you've got your notch. Your notch will probably go to about here. So you kind of get a 3D idea of how we're carving. And this whole space will have to go. And then from here, you're going to try and mimic that bevel on your sword that you've created with the rasp. Around this point, you're going to be asking yourself once you get started on this, why did I listen to you and not just put a straight edge on it? But it'll look a lot better, I promise. And then you're going to cut this part out. So that kind of gives you an idea, a 3D look at the habaki. And then it's going to be the same on this side, except mirrored. So you're going to want all this space cut out. There's going to be a bevel here, and then your little notch cut out of the back. So that's that. Key measurements, like I said, if you're going to mimic what I'm doing, this whole distance, it's 1 inch tall, and then the notch is going to be 3/16 deep. So those are two key measurements. And then you're going to probably wonder where these two lines came from. And those are the line of your tang. And what you do for that is you take your sword blade, okay, and you're going to take it and pretend like you're actually putting it into the habaki. Okay, you can tell because this is going to be the back, it's going to fit in the notch, so that this is where that square back comes into play. You can just place it square against the back like that. Okay, so this creates a nice smooth line. And then in the front, it's going to be recessed. So you can just make a notch there, that line's already there, and then draw your line. Same here, you just draw your line out and here. Because you can see now where the notch comes into play. This just goes into the notch and this is all exposed. This is embedded, so we have to draw another line for it like that. So you can kind of get an idea of how that works. And this is why the back is placed here, so you don't have to worry about cutting directly inside of it. So you don't have to worry about cutting the back out again. So that is that. That's laying it out. And again, you're going to do the same thing, only opposite over here. So again, the back is still the back. And you just draw those two lines over again. So that, again, like I said, is laying it all out. And then you're going to want to make your cuts, which is just going to include cutting here, right along this line, and give yourself, like I said, you're going to want to give yourself a little bit extra space. So you're going to cut a piece about 3 inches or so. And so you're going to cut here and here. And then the same for this, here and here. And that's so, like I said, just to give you an idea of what I mean when I room to breathe here, you can put your thumb there while you're on a flat surface. Again, you're going to do the majority of your work on a flat surface, so you have something to hold on to, because you don't want to hold on to both of these pieces at the same time. So you can make this piece as long as you want, and you're just going to cut it at the end. But instead, you want at least 1.5 inches or so. You can have something to muckle onto or to clamp down as you're going to work on it. So that's pretty much it. That's laying it out and its purpose. And in the next video, I will cover how to carve it. See you then.